So, welcome everyone. I'm Sharada from Be Woman Project and Baby School, and I'm so happy to be here tonight with you. Here, I'm calling in from Mother Bali, where you are. It might be morning or night, I don't know, but I'm so happy to be here today with one of the most beautiful goddesses and priestesses and witches that I know, Shereen Öberg from Sweden. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Sharada. So happy to be connected with you again. And yeah, just seeing where this conversation will take us today.
Yes. This is part of our Davis Voice that we have bi-weekly. We're inviting beautiful, empowering, authentic, integrated, and amazing women that have really walked or are walking the heroine's journey and really taking this opportunity that we've been given as a human being, and especially as in a female body, to really embrace this gift and make the most out of it. And Shereen is definitely one of these women that I admire so much. She has so much wisdom and experience and knowledge and a heart. And she's invited me many times to her beautiful podcast, Law of Positivism. I'm so grateful for your invitation and really embracing the sisterhood, in the spirit of sisterhood, which is so healing and needed. So I'd like to just read to you all about Shereen's journey, so you can get to know her a little bit more, and you'll get to know her even more now during this interview. So Shereen is a Kurdish yoga and meditation teacher, Reiki practitioner, and a licensed acupuncturist, Chinese medicine practitioner and acupuncturist, and soon to be initiated priestess through Daughters of Ishtar. Oh, I can't wait to hear about that. She has worked with channeling, healing, and spiritual awakening for many years now, alongside holding a bachelor's degree in business and economics and a master's degree in global sexual and reproductive health and rights, with focus on women's health and infertility. I look forward to talk about that. Shereen is in a mission to help others on their spiritual and healing path. Her book, The Law of Positivism, Live a Life of Higher Vibrations, Love and Gratitude, is a practical book guiding you through all levels of being to help you to heal and grow on all levels and live your highest potential. She's also host of the Law of Positivism Podcast. So wonderful. Wow. Again, warm welcome, Shereen. And yeah, how are you today? How are you in this moment? How is your heart?
I'm really feeling the presence of the Divine Mother so much right now. It's been a very intense time of finalizing things like my studies, and this is like the out breath, like the exhalation right now for me. So today I don't know, it's been so many signs and synchronicities leading up to today as well, and this talk. So I feel like it's been like a perfect timing to talk to you and to be here to share. So yeah, I feel just happy to be here with you.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Yeah.
How are you today? How is everything in Bali?
It's been a full day today. I've had pujas in the morning at the yoga teacher training, and then culminating the Rising Witch Sacred Sexuality course today, which was so touching. And then the Muse program. So I had quite a full, beautiful day. I'm in my ovulation phase. So like,
we're synchronized then,
yeah,
both of us. So maybe that's why we feel like this overflow also.
yeah. Exactly. And we'd love to hear from you who is listening, joining today. So warm welcome also. And if you have any questions, any sharing, any comment, any inspiration, please share it in the chat. And Julia Devi, our amazing, beautiful Swedish sister and Be Woman team, collaborator and community space holder is there to answer questions as well, and will pass on your questions and comments to us. So thank you, Julia, for setting it all up and being there for everyone. Yeah. So yes, maybe we'll start. Just I would love to hear your path with the goddess, like Be Woman Project, Devi School. It's all about empowering women and really bringing in the vision and the teachings of the goddess. And I know that has been a profound journey in your life as well, the path of the goddess. And now you're soon to be a priestess initiated in the Ishtar tradition. Or yes, you can tell me more about it. And I'd love to hear about your work that you've been doing in these times.
Yeah, thank you so much for holding the space for me to share. It's always, I'm so used to ask the questions. So when I have to share, I'm not really used to being in the spotlight. But this is the second time this week that I'm sharing with like a women empowered community like this. So I feel very held and just supported in this, whatever needs to come through. Well, I would say my journey with the divine has been a lifelong journey, because things that I experienced as a child and growing up also as a teenager really connected me to something that I felt a deep faith in through my own experiences and my own intuitive and my higher senses and all of this. And then also going through as a woman and being in a Western culture, but with a Middle Eastern background, also seeing the contrast, living in a little bit into different worlds, really opened my eyes to what it is to be a woman and to have our cycles and all of that. And I've always been connected to my cycles, because I've always had, like, it's like my body has always needed me to focus there in one or different ways because of imbalances or having very heavy cramps and bleed. Like, it's always been reminding me. So that naturally takes us into an investigation. If we're not suppressing it, it can take us into an investigation and a deeper dive into ourselves and into the goddess in one way, because there's no coincidences, and there's no, like, everything is there for a reason, I believe. So but I would say my really profound awakening to the divinity as a mother, as a creative womb, was definitely I was in Thailand when I did my first yoga teacher training. It was back in, I think, 2017, and I had the opportunity for the woman that was having the ashram. She was a woman, I would say, around her 60, like early 60s, like late 50s and early 60s. And she had been trained in shamanic traditions from Mongolia, if I remember correctly. So it was really unique, and I had never been in a drums journey or anything like that before, but I have always had my dreams, and that's something that is in our lineage, in our female lineage, back like all the way from my mother and my aunts and my like that's something that we have in our tradition very strongly. So I've never had I had up until then had a lot of experiences through meditation and hypnosis and things like that, but and also in dreams and other states of reality. But this one really took me in. It was a journey where through just drums, listening to the drums, going into this trance state, which led me first into the earth and into that realm, meeting a lion and the symbolism of that, but that's something that I've had been dreaming about my whole life. I was dreaming about felines my whole life since I was a child. So I saw the connection there, and the connection I had with this particular vision of the lion. And then when I went in the journey upwards, it was more of an ethereal, like mountainous place. And that's also my roots. The Kurdish region is a mountainous place. So I had a vision of an eagle taking me up and putting me into a plateau very high above the clouds. And when I was in it, I was just feeling like it might have been my imagination that was causing this, but I was feeling the spirits in the room at that time, and like physically also, like through touch. But in this moment, as I was put down, the eagle turned into a winged woman. And I asked her repeatedly what her name was until she said Ishtar to me.
Wow.
And I asked her about my life and things that were important back then, 5 years ago. And I can say that things have unfolded as even if it wasn't clear, but the things that she told me was unfolded that way. So I can affirm to myself that I didn't make it up. And it was an initiation, because I had no concept of what it was or what this being was, or I had experience with angels and things like that on this realm. But when I became into consciousness again, I knew that name because I had a friend who had that name when I was a child. It's a very old name from Iraq. And but when I Googled the name, I was very surprised to see the depiction of her with the wings and standing on the lions. So that was kind of scary in the beginning. This is a very visual initiation. It can happen in so many different ways. And it wasn't that right then I had this experience and I didn't think so much about it. The shaman also affirmed this being, that she had seen her throughout that journey. And it wasn't until I think a year later when I started to, it was like that started trickling into my own journey with myself slowly. Like it wasn't, I think it was like the year after I found you, and I went into like a very small rural place in Sweden, and we worked with womb breathing. Like it started to happen. I met women, I think I met women like that throughout that year that started to remind me, and I had never had the concept of priestess, for example. So it was really something that came from somewhere else, but then started to come into my consciousness through other people as well. So that was a journey. And I started to also remember a couple of years before that I had like a state where I heard a woman's voice speaking to me and guiding me. But I thought maybe, and I can't affirm what it was, but I thought it was maybe a spirit speaking to me, and it could have been, but it was still so powerful that it was a woman's voice, you know. And also there was also an inner confusion, like for many women to be in a patriarchal system, more or less, depending on where we are in the world, and to start reclaiming oneself. And it takes time, because in our 20s, we're not maybe, and I mean, we all have different journeys. For me, in my 20s, I wasn't aware of how controlled I was by the patriarchal system. So that started another journey. And I decided that like my work, I had worked with Law of Positivism for many years then, but it was then that it started. I was understanding that the divinity I was working with was in, like, I could finally relate to that as a female form of some way, but it's everything as well. But for me, it was more relatable as a divine feminine. So that led me then into my own inner work, because I would say that Ishtar and Inanna's story is the one also of it can be the dark mother. It's the queen of heaven and earth, it's said, but it's also the initiation into the underworld and to go in deep. So I would say that that journey led me into a really deep and dark place within myself, to really, I mean, not, it was like everything I had to face everything in my life in this lifetime and probably many lifetimes. So it was a really profound journey. And in that whole journey, I had to continuously confirm that if this is what the goddess wants me to experience, this is, I fully accept it. I fully trust her on this path. So that was like in my personal journey. And I started also like when I started a podcast, that was the initiation also to, like you said, like raise up other women, and because I started seeing how many women there are out there doing such great work. We need to rise together. So I think the podcast is definitely focused on the divine feminine so much. And then on the other side, I also decided to not conform into what I had been doing in a patriarchal system when it came to my vocation. And I really felt an urge. I started to, I think the year after that initiation, I started my doula training. I started my acupuncture training with the intention to work with women's health. I decided also to leave like my full-time job and to study nursing, to become a midwife. And that journey led me instead into this latest year of studying instead of the midwifery, which is also part of a system right now, unfortunately, that is not beneficial for these female-led, like the healthcare system is not still in the world benefiting these type of vocations, unfortunately, in many ways. And I decided to take this master's in global sexual and reproductive health and rights, and learning so much about the systems of the world and low resource settings and rights. I also did an internship at UN Women, so that was more of women's rights work. And so everything has led me here. That was a long story, but that's where I am right now, and that's how everything started.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, what a journey. Beautiful. I have so many, like, shall we now go into that? Shall we take that road, this path?
There's so much. Yeah.
There's so much there, right? We can each of the subject that you mentioned, we can now dive into and explore that further. But just to see it from the big picture, like to really see how, like you dare to trust that and embrace those changes, and it has led you from one thing to the next, and how you've started one thing and then like, no, that's not what I want, and I'm gonna change, and really embraced the changes.
To go with that flow. And it doesn't mean that it's an easy process. Like when you turn your world around, it is like you have to face a lot of things, and when you decide to do something else, other things come up, but these are all part of the process. You have to see these things to say, okay, I'm not gonna be in that anymore. I'm releasing myself. Like this is a practice of releasing yourself from old limitations and dogmas and norms, and that's a process in itself.
Huge. So I'd love to hear, would you share with us just like the key, when you were mentioning, like we had this initiation with this shamanic, with this shaman and going into the different worlds, and he said there I had to let go of everything. What is for you everything? Like maybe for us it is very very
Mm.
clear what that means, but just to give words to it, were there like certain specific, was it a relationship or the
Mm.
job or
Mm.
the health, or if you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I think that to release and to trust the path is about also like understanding that we have so many beliefs and images in our mind of what we think that we are, what we should be, what we will be. There's so many things, but they are all external usually. It's not that, oh, this is something where I want to become more compassionate to myself or to others. I want to be even less in my desire, or like anything. It can be anything. And but for me, it was to release the thought of who I am and what I'm here to do, and a possible future, and a possible like I don't know. I think I've lived in a very young, masculine state in my life, because I've always been like a high achiever, and that's a part of me, and that's also part of the feminine as well. So it's not only the masculine that wants to grow and to create, but also doing it from having a balance is so important. Otherwise, we do go through exhaustion or imbalances that start to happen in the body. But for me, it was less tangible things. The most tangible thing, probably it did awake me that, okay, I'm not what I've always known, but it affirmed to me, I'm not on the right career path. I'm not maybe going to, it doesn't serve me to think that I'm going to be this type of person with this type of life, because the goddess has showed me other options that I didn't understand. So, but this can go for anything that holds us, and we are almost captivated by it. That's where the release might really be great for us and our progress in life.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, you have a degree in business and economics, that maybe was that the first, like, the myth you grew up, I'm going to be a businesswoman or an economic,
of course. I mean, I took my degree when I was 23, and then I went on a master's degree for business as well when I was 24, I think. So everything happened very early for me, and I didn't really have a concept of anything else more than that. And but I was actually very always into spiritual. I started with when I was 13 reading Paulo Coelho's books, and I was always into like these mystical shows, and I was having my own experiences. Started to study astrology very early as well, and so I always had that with me. And also growing up in a culture that I grew up in, spirituality is a natural way of life. It's nothing not separated from anything. But definitely, so I started my career, I worked for Google for 2 years, and I mean, that was so different. Like, I moved to Ireland, I worked there, and that was my first job. So imagine, like, that was something that maybe I would have thought, okay, maybe in 10 years or 15 years I will get to that point. But I did it early, and I realized early then, okay, I reached something that I thought was like, wow. And I wasn't happy about it, like being there, and I wasn't happy in my life. And I had a deep initiation during that time as well into releasing a lot of these outer senses, but I didn't know it was happening. A lot of this, I mean, during that time, Law of Positivism was born because I had so much interest in like the quantum physics and like these different modalities, and I started practicing meditation there, and that led me into yoga. So there was a lot of things that came up from that darkness that led me then further. So it's been years of different, it feels like different lifetimes, kind of like it's so much has happened in 1, 2, 3 years in different sections, and then having the Saturn return, which we all have. It's a lot of shifts, that like different chapters of our lives, I think.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Yeah, Law of Positivism has now how many followers? Your podcast.
Oh, it's so hard to, I'm never, maybe it's over 300,000, I think. And the podcast has, I'm so happy because the podcast it's not about me and my work, it's about other people. And I'm so happy. I think it definitely has over 100,000 streams and episodes like what you have been. It's still people listening, even if we did it a while back. It's still there, and those people who need to listen will find it. And that's everything. That's why I do it. I don't gain anything from it more than that I have beautiful conversations and that people are being heard that need to be heard, I think.
So beautiful, really. Wow.
Thank you.
So beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about the teachings and the paths of the priestess and what you are being initiated or have been already or about to graduate from the Daughters of Ishtar. I'd love to hear about the teachings also.
Yeah, so it was really interesting that I had this encounter with the goddess, and then just I think a few weeks or a month after, it was the first time I heard the word priestess. So it was through a dear friend of mine, and she had a remembrance, and we had a remembrance. So, and she has been in this work for much longer, has so much experience. So I trusted her and trust her, her intuitive messages that she gave me. So that started on a path into that. And I think back then, maybe it wasn't as, I feel like it's been growing and growing so much now, so it's much more readily available. But back then, I heard about the priestesses of Avalon. So that's where I also ended up the year after. I just very spontaneously went to England and Glastonbury, and probably had the initiation there of some kind as well, just by being there. It was just so beautiful. And then learning also more about like the traditions here in Sweden and the things going on here. But I'm also always longing back to my roots and the Kurdish culture. So I really got interested in that. And so Ishtar was with me. The more time went, I was reading more, and there's such beautiful. So the first written and named by author text is by a priestess of Inanna or Ishtar. Inanna and Ishtar is the same, but with different names. It was different timelines. And Hedwana was her priestess, and she was the first. It was the first written text with a name under it. And this is from ancient Mesopotamia, where you say that the cradle of civilization is, because that then grew into like other cultures having goddesses like Isis, and like everything is like connected to this tradition. And there's different goddesses and gods, but she was, as we see it, very honored and venerated as the main like deity in this time. So I really felt a lot, and during this time I also started to connect with other energies like Mary Magdalene. I had visions of her with Mother Mary and Jesus. I have no background in Christianity at all. It just came, everything started, and now I know the connection also from Ishtar all the way to Mary Magdalene. I've seen this timeline, so it's no coincidence. So when it was last year, it was like so many times I wanted to do it, and then something was holding me back, and I wanted to do, maybe I didn't find the right mentor, or it was something. And then last year I just found this very coincidentally a woman who practices, has the Daughters of Ishtar, temple in Australia, actually. And I connected with her, and I just knew that this was the person I wanted to work with. And she had been working with this for many, many years in Australia, but never done anything. I heard something right when we talk about this, things start happening here. And me and my good friend, who's also has a Kurdish heritage here in Sweden, we decided to do this journey with her. And it's very since she's never taught this online, it's only us three, so we have a very one-to-one deep sessions throughout the year, and we do ceremonies, and we've been following a kind of the wheel of the year, as you know, like the equinoxes and the summer solstice, but we are working with the feminine cycles in a way. So it starts with conception, we have been conceived, and then gestation, birth, the eye gazing and the breastfeeding, the first menarche, the desire mystery, and all of that, and then the sovereignty. So that's what we've been following, and each point of the year we are doing different ceremonies and rituals and working with her different aspects. And it's very intuitive. And since I also love, like, I've always been into reading and understanding things also academically, but also like intuitively, logically. So I really study the history and seen like my own connections ancestrally to everything. And yeah, it's been a beautiful path, and it's to hold also be able to hold space for others and to work with this type of practices, which is kind of, so if we look at the practices that you do, Sharada, for example, it's been like, for the beautiful thing with the Hindu culture is that it was preserved, while this dates back maybe 10,000, 11,000 years back, but you see a systematic degradation of the goddess started to happen around 5,000 years ago, and her stories. So it went from like her admiring herself, her vulva in the stories, which are written 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, and then becoming into stories where she's ridiculed because she has had different partners, for example. So there is a systematic thing that happened. And going into the Old Testament and Genesis, you see the flipping of these ancient Sumerian stories, mythologies, into something else, something different. And that's why all of these women goddesses, the prophets, are so connected to each other, like trying to bring us back to remembrance. So for me also, Mother Mary and the Black Madonna has been very important in my journey, and also connected back to both Ishtar, Inanna, Isis. It's all connected, so it's beautiful to see that lineage.
Wow, amazing. Yeah. Oh, I can listen forever. Yeah, there's it's a wealth of knowledge there that gracefully we have now access to. It's really, like you said, when you started, it wasn't that available, and now like there are schools of Ishtar and Inanna and Isis. It's all like slowly rising and available to enter, or the path of Magdalena, the Rose lineage. I know there are so many lineages and schools just popping up like mushrooms everywhere, and it's really the feminine just
blossoming
and rising again from the ashes. Yeah,
definitely.
Wow, beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. And what made you, or what brought you then, or you were saying that you were studying, I mean, I could go so much more deeper into the Daughters of Ishtar, and maybe we'll do that another time. And
of
course, there's so much, but we also want to cover some of the other subjects that you have been diving into, which is like you were decided to do a master in sexual and reproductive health and rights, with focus on women's health and rights, where you actually started to study midwifery, and that's where you then decided to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to get into midwifery, and because I've really enjoyed my work as a doula, and to work with that, but I could see that the system is not there yet to fully, even in a country like Sweden where we have midwifery-led birth departments, it's still very like scientific and medical in a way. So your hands are tied to that. You have to. So my program that I studied was an international program, and we had people from all over the world, which I think made it even more authentic than any other studies that I had on a university level. This was my 8th year of university, actually, because I have studied so many different things. But I found it so beautiful to have people in my class from everywhere, from Bangladesh to Nigeria to North America. We were different people with different backgrounds, some in midwifery, some doctors, some from philosophy. So we were different people, but with the same very passion for women's right and health. And the program was very much, I would say, because the field of SRHR, sexual reproductive health and rights, it's really focused, and especially the work that the UN does and other organizations, is around so maternity care, so taking care of the mothers in pregnancy and birth and after birth, and also the baby. It's also around contraceptives and all of that, and then of course different sexual rights to express your sexuality the way you want, and we take that for granted in the West. But I've learned so much also just through this program to see how ingrained there's discrimination and inequality in this field. And I was especially since I'm very also into, when I started studying my own cycles, very into women's health, and particularly I decided to focus on infertility, which is kind of in this field a little bit shadowed. Even in our program, it wasn't really much talked about, but it does impact women, and it impacts not only, it doesn't matter if you're in a low resource country or a high resource country, it impacts all women. So there's a oneness there. So I decided to do my master's thesis in the experience of women's going through infertility and infertility treatment, because from the Chinese medicine perspective, and I've worked with women through Chinese medicine and through my mentor, who I trained with clinically, not one condition can be treated in the same way, because we all have different constitution and different imbalances and things that need to come into balance again. But in the Western world, it's like, okay, we have one solution and that's it, or we have this medication, or we have this treatment. So the treatments I focused on IVF as a treatment, and just synthesize. It was a meta synthesis. So it was taking different qualitative studies and putting them all into one. From different, in that way, I could see how is it globally? How is it from Hong Kong to Pakistan to Sweden? And in total, my study then could contain 500 women's experiences, and they were all the same. So
Wow.
the journey is very, of course, emotional for anyone who's listening and have experience of this, or any type of reproductive loss, which can be a miscarriage or an abortion, or it can be like stillbirth, whatever it is. It's like the pain that women experience was the same. And even though societies are so different and the stigmatization is different, the grief is the same. It's one quote was so beautiful of a woman saying, it's like you're mourning without anyone else knowing about it. It's a mourning, but that no one else mourns. So there's a deep grief and isolation. So I did, through these studies, synthesize concepts and themes from it. And one of the big things was that the society and healthcare system is not there for women. And we know that already, like from different parts of women's health. But in this particular case, it's really not accessible. And if you look in a country like Ghana, where clinics for this, first of all, are centered geographically around the capital and not even geographically available, and then accessible, and not even financially accessible. So women are going through this and just not having the option to do anything. And for me, reproduction is a right. Someone actually questioned this, said, is it really a right? But I think that just as contraceptives or any abortion is your right, we must as a society provide the options, either like biological reproduction or anything else that could help these women. And it's all about having very easy support, but there's a dehumanization happening in the healthcare system, and we see that throughout many lines. So this program was really, it was me taking my devotion to the goddess to this level and integrating it. Because for me, I even from a discussion of the healthcare system can go back all the way to, what happened in Mesopotamia to women, and these beautiful goddesses which are portrayed and shown in all of its glory, and to where we are today. So it's a part of the movement, I think, that we're in. It's to find all of these like places where we are being marginalized in society.
Yeah, wow. How were you able to access 500 women?
So that's what the meta synthesis is, a way where already researchers have done interviews of women and conducted their research. And if my work was to find these articles and these scientific studies, and exactly then you put them together through different criteria. So it's very it's been a 6 months of really diving into the academic world, which I love, and really researching. And then it goes from like having to read maybe 400 titles to narrowing it down to like this very high quality studies that matched my aim. And my aim was to explore the experience of women going through infertility and infertility treatment. So these studies were really beautiful. And as I said, they were from different parts of the world, and you can still see the same themes, and especially that support and support, psychological, emotional support is not there at all. So we are still in a system like where it's so it's just like a machine, it's a machine for people who are in it.
Yeah, and that's where where I feel like what you're saying, that support, emotional support is not there, where really we as women can do so much for each other through a women's circle, through just being there for each other. And like you said, one of the quote, I feel I'm so alone in my morning
Yeah, exactly.
process. And actually there are so many women that are going through that same experience at that time. And I have myself sisters close by that have gone through a loss of pregnancy, and they're really saying it has changed everything, that I have myself not gone through it in this life at least, but the ones I've heard and I know, and and having done rituals and rites of passage and in the women's circle, to be able to share that is the greatest gift with others.
It is. And that was actually one of the things that I saw that women did right, and especially sharing with other, because it was isolating to them to even like not talk to family and friends almost about it. But what if they were in a safe place with other women going through the similar things, it was really beneficial for them. So it's such an easy thing for society, but it's not being there. So it's really good to have these these type of communities like you've built to support each other, and that there is no judgment there, and we are all going through different things where when we share it, it's a healing in itself.
Yeah. Is that something that you want to like offer or yes,
that's
something that
I feel like this, finalizing this and also being initiated into this priestess path, where I need to be very clear. It's not just, oh, I'm a priestess and then what do I do? No, it's about what is my intention, if I even want to call myself that. It's not a title. It's a dedication and a devotion. You dedicate yourself and you decide, this is what I'm gonna do, and that is the aspect that I want to definitely also focus on, to support. And my work has always been based in healing. It's always been healing work. It's in different ways and forms. My work is always healing work. So I think that giving that support and healing through different, now that I understand it intellectually, but also on deeper levels and energetically, and then inviting in the Divine Mother, because that's also a different aspect that everyone can connect to, and we're embodiments of her in one way. So seeing that energy can come through in different ways in our lives, I think that's important too.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, so important. Yeah, and there are like amazing women out there that are really also having now access and having studied and are being able to share a natural way of, I don't know if you can say like healing infertility. I mean, there are so many aspects to it. If it's like generational inheritance, the stress, the patriarchy, the shame, the sexual trauma, on energetic level, so many. And then of course, you know, more physical, physiological, biological. But from my experience, one of the main reasons, and I'm happy to love for you to share, is really that emotional disconnection that has been there to the goddess and to our own femininity, and very much the sexual trauma and that goal-oriented mindset where some of the main factors, because I've been working also a lot with women that desire to have a baby, and what we do in the Vedic tradition is we do rituals to Santana Lakshmi, the goddess of progeny, to invoke a child. And there are special rituals one can do, and if that doesn't work, then one can ask priests, like Vedic Hindu priests, 1, 2, 3, 4, depending, to do special homas, which are more elaborate than a puja, for 48 days in a row, every single day. And I've experienced myself, families or couples that have followed that path and conceived a child after doing this kind of rituals, having gone through huge fertility or infertility programs where nothing helped. And doing this kind of rituals, they were gifted a child.
So
and it's been marvelous and magical to witness and be part of stories like this, and also the whole sacred healing with the womb healing and the sexual trauma, which there is the alternative way of. Would you agree? Like, is that
100%? I mean, it's nothing in the physical is only physical. I don't believe that at all. and then infuse it with two other major things, that is our karma and also our what we are so yeah, the karma, but also our connection to a potential baby from a spiritual path. So I learned from my teacher again that when we worked with women, that we are not invoking a pregnancy through these needles like the acupuncture, even though it has proven to be so effective in, especially around IVF, to have treatments before and after. But maybe it's not that it is like, oh, now we're making this conception. No, maybe the woman becomes more relaxed and releases tension and, like you said, energetics in the womb and things like that. So it doesn't have to be that it's like, okay, here's a medication and this is the effect, here's the needles, this is the effect. No, it's not that. And in the end, she said, it's not these needles that will help you to conceive. It's going to be something else. It's God. It's, I mean, no child is I love this concept that no child is ours. It's the mother's child, right? So it's not up to us if we're gonna there's gonna come through a spirit through us in this lifetime. If we have a longing, I had a teacher who also talked about this, and the longing for something can be a seed in this lifetime, and it can come to fruition in a different lifetime. So there's so much there. And I think that if we could work in the healthcare system from many different perspectives, it would be great. We are not going to get there anytime soon. So we need to have we have to have alternative practitioners to give this type of support, and also understanding that everything that we go through in the body can also enhance our spiritual practice. Any type of imbalance in the body is telling us something and reminding us of something on our path. So really not, again, like this attaching and separating thing. No, it's all, everything is one. And I definitely believe in spiritual practices for this type of experiences as well. I've been actually looking into like womb work through, I don't know if you know Sri Kaleshwar, who talks about the holy womb chakra, that everyone can work with, women and men. It's to release old things from this space, where also the womb space is also for men. Also, we're all part of this creation and this cosmic womb. So there's so many different ways to work with yourself, and the heart and womb is connected. And in Chinese medicine, it is like so integral. So understanding that like healing a certain thing can then systematically like heal something else.
Yes, yes, yeah, yes, the karma. That's what we really, with these rituals and pujas and homas, is there to neutralize that karma that is there, because we're not in charge, but then we can ask and invoke, and then maybe with grace it
exactly
manifests.
Yeah.
So
beautiful.
Wow, so rich, and I really look forward seeing how all these jewels that you have been able to receive, how you're gonna you're sharing so much already, and but I think like there's been a lot of studies. I'm impressed by how you have been studying and absorbing so much, and now maybe like what are the ways? I know that you offer yoga retreats and meditations, and now with all the paths of the goddess and your vast knowledge now in infertility or infertility, how that is going to be brought forward for women and men and families to be able to partake. Is there anything else that you feel you would love to share right now, to complement or to add? Or
it's been, I mean, so beautiful to share with you and the audience today, even though we can't see you all who's listening. But for anyone who's listening, don't hesitate to connect with me. And just if you have any questions or experiences, so I'm just open to anything. And yeah, I feel like just for us all, and I think everyone who's here definitely feels this energy, there is a strong presence of this divine mother who's also carrying us through these different stages of our lives and the phase we're in as a collective right now. So I think that just being open to that and feel, I mean, there, for any being, the mother is everything, right? From when we are born, how like it's, even if it's like a biological mother or someone who's taking care of us, like it's a really beautiful space to be in. So receive that, because it's always there for you and unconditionally. And I think that can help us when we're going through our own inner process of healing, shedding, releasing, going into that, as I said, Ishtar's darker phases. It's like there's so many mythologies and stories about the underworld and going in there, and that helps us to rise up again even stronger.
Do you have any recommendations for people, women that would like to learn about Ishtar, and can they contact you, or are there books, or how could they start?
There's so much. I mean, you can start by reading the mythologies and the stories. There are books about it, and I'm also gonna offer the ceremony after which I'm initiated, start to offer it online as a journey to work with her, and then I will definitely share both the stories and what the meanings, and also how others can embody the different aspects of her. And also that we go through this cycle from conception to becoming like fully blossoming as we are. We're also reinitiating. So let's say you didn't have a great menarche like ceremony and all of this, or you haven't experienced holding the child, or be like, you can remember your own, how you were held. It's so beautiful. And I know, Sharada, you also work with this. So it's really synchronistic, because I was in a session with you where it was kind of the same thing that we've been practicing in our temple. So you're like also intuitively giving out of that, channeling that. So precious and so healing.
Yeah, it's so healing. Yeah, one of our programs is the Priestess initiation training. And there we go through the major rites of passage, because in the Vedic tradition, rites of passage, we have 16. For every human being, there are minimum 16 rites of passage used to be. So in our trainings, we have 7 that we have chosen, that we go through from birth all the way to death. And it's so profound to go through these initiations and receive them, and then to give them, because every time you give them, you receive them again. I feel every time I ceremony, I feel I'm going through it myself again. Yeah,
and that's so beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so we're gonna conclude here. This has been absolutely marvelous and inspiring and jaw-dropping. And yeah, I hope we can have you back again for more conversations. And I'm so grateful for you, and your being and your invitation and your openness, and for your love to share so freely. And yes, women, go and follow Shereen at Instagram. I think it's a great place, right? Law of Positivism. Yeah, and the website also is Law of Positivism.
Yeah, the same name everywhere. Exactly.
Yeah,
and thank you so much for letting me share here, and just for you that you're listening, and for everyone who's here. I'm really grateful and so filled up by this hour that we've been together.
Yeah, went by so quickly.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Mwah. Home, everyone. Lots of love.
you. Thank you.
Ah, okay, let's see. Yes.
Oh,